All right, guys and gals, for this topic, this is something that me personally, I'm very excited and looking forward to really talking about because we're like a month away now when you think about it for the premiere of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Other than COVID delays, I'm just glad we're almost here. We've seen trailers. By now, there was recently like a short 1 minute trailer that premiered online. So it's a good thing that there's also like IMAX posters, Dolby posters, some really interesting artwork. Honestly, it's amazing to see. Like in the beginning, the director of the first movie, Scott Derrickson, I think that's his name, Scott Derrickson, was originally meant to come back and direct this film. Because of creative differences, unfortunately, between Derrickson and Marvel, Kevin Feige, both parties went their separate ways. But this is why I'm more than happy that someone like Sam Raimi got on board as someone who is a fan of comic book films, especially obviously Spider-Man, and someone who's great with horror films like Evil Dead and all those other horror films. He's perfect for this job. I just thought like, I'm glad he's on the job. He's perfect. And I'm glad like he's the one pursuing the project, and based on the trailers, I'm very much pleased, and I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm excited to see the surprises. So from a recent interview he had with Fandango, there have been a bunch of quotes that I have that really caught my attention. But I want to start with the big one before I go with some of the other details. He was asked on, if ahead of the Multiverse of Madness film about Tobey Maguire, his thoughts on Tobey and No Way Home. Of course, Raimi loved seeing Maguire in No Way Home and said like he'd be happy to work with Tobey Maguire again with this quote. I've come to realize after making Doctor Strange that anything is possible. Really anything in the Marvel Universe. Any team-ups. I love Tobey. I love Kirsten Dunst. I think all things are possible. I don't really have a story or a plan. I don't know if Marvel would be interested in that right now. I don't know what their thoughts are about that. I haven't really pursued that, but it sounds beautiful. Even if it wasn't a Spider-Man movie, I'd love to work with Tobey again, in a different role. So he's very enthusiastic and has strong feelings of Tobey Maguire, since clearly both collaborated well on the Spider-Man trilogy from the early to late 2000s. And the funny thing is, like, last night, even those films were airing again on NBC Max. Yeah, NBC Max. So the timing was just strangely coincidental. So I think both Maguire and Raimi collaborating again, I mean, that's something I'd like to see. So going forward, regarding MCU films he may have seen before, prior to working on this Doctor Strange film, he said like, since you got to give a story, I'm going to give you a two-part answer. I had seen Iron Man, the first Avengers, Black Panther, and Doctor Strange, and little clips of the other movies. They've made 28 movies. I've only seen 4 or 5. So I'll say not that familiar. That's one part. By the way, I loved what I saw, but not that familiar. But part 2 is I was a giant fan of the Marvel comic books of the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. So I was super familiar with the characters and their stories and their interactions. That's what the Marvel movies are based on, so that's my answer. So yeah, Sam Raimi, despite being a huge Marvel comic book fan, he hasn't really seen a lot of MCU films, like maybe 4 or 5, and he has seen some of the bigger ones. I'm sure he's meant, regarding Iron Man, I'm assuming he's saying the first Iron Man film, which is a classic, and the same for the first Avengers film. And Black Panther, really a cultural phenomenon as well. Now, what are the surprises? Are there any surprises we're going to get? Can he tease any more surprises like we got from No Way Home? I guess I would say that Spider-Man No Way Home broke open the idea that characters from the multiverse could visit our universe. But this is the first time that our characters from our universe will go out into the multiverse and experience other universes. So, it's going to be a continuation. But that, I think, is one of the biggest appeals. finding other realities, and how they rhyme with our own, or how they are completely the opposite, or variations thereof, excuse me. I think therein lies the interest of this picture. Okay. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing different variations of Strange and Wanda. And yeah, a new character was teased, America Chavez. I was gonna say American Chavez, America Chavez. I don't know the name of the young actress who plays her, but she's supposedly like an interdimensional hero going from dimension to dimension. And the trailer we saw like a big giant creature. It really looked so much like Shuma Gorath, but because of naming rights, for some strange reason, that's not one of the villains in the movie. It's kind of weird. I don't even understand the whole issue, but whatever. At least there's some one-eyed octopus giant alien creature that looks like Shuma Gorath. Now, clearly, when asked about Patrick Stewart, his voice can be heard in the trailer. He was not allowed to say anything, not a word about any given comment on Patrick Stewart. So clearly, by trying to hide this secret, to me, it seems like he will come back as Professor X. I at least hope so. Or if it's a different character, that's fine. But with the multiverse being open, one character or another is something I think is a possibility for Patrick Stewart. When asked who he considers as the movie's antagonists, that's an interesting one. Well, there's iterations of our characters throughout the multiverse. So if I were to say Strange, I'm not really supposed to answer this question, but I might be saying Altered Strange. Same with Wanda or Mordor, as in Baron Mordor. But I would say at different times, all of the above. And that makes sense because these are flawed characters in the film. I think like Baron Mordor, played by, man, this name is so hard to pronounce. Chiwetel Ejiofor. Okay, I'm not gonna try. That was just difficult. Like, I remember him from The Martian. Yeah, The Martian, when he collaborated with Ridley Scott and Matt Damon in that 2015 movie, which was fantastic. But yeah, I like his thought, like saying, with these characters, they're not perfect, they're flawed, they make mistakes for the right reasons, and they're kind of villains themselves. So, would Sam Raimi come back and direct another MCU film? This answer I like. Absolutely. It's like the world's best toy box to be able to play at Marvel. I'd love to come back and tell another tale, especially with the great management they've got there. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Sure, working with someone like Kevin Feige is not always easy when a director has their own vision and producer of a multi-billion-dollar movie franchise has their own storylines planned, storyboards, any sort of teasers planned. But I mean, it at least it's good. At least things sound pretty good. His favorite version of Benedict Cumberbatch playing Doctor Strange. What is his favorite version of Cumberbatch playing Strange, I should say? No, I don't have a favorite. I really like them interacting with each other very much. I think that was the most interesting thing, to see Benedict Cumberbatch bring out a part of his personality that was slightly unique to create one of his altered selves. Or to watch Lizzie maybe bring a darker part of herself out to create an altered version of herself. The slightest tweaks they could come up with made it very interesting for me. So I like the answers he gave, and I like his perspective on, how he thought and believed that the actors really brought more to the role than just one version of their main character. And I'm definitely looking forward to see like how much versatility and variety there is for their characters, and just seeing how they're not perfect and how they're very much flawed at all. Can this be like a 10 out of 10 film? Maybe not, but I do think there's potential for this movie to be like an 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Now, if it's a 7 out of 10, that doesn't mean it's bad at all. It's just maybe like not a step up from the first film. The first film I was fine with. I'd say like 6 out of 10, Maybe if you're more generous, 7 out of 10. Doctor Strange in 2016, a 7 out of 10. For me, in some ways, not so bad. So my expectations are high for this film to be much more exciting, much more greater, especially with the amount of time in films Benedict Cumberbatch has had the opportunity to play and star as Doctor Strange throughout the years.